Okay, so we've only got about a half hour now before we kind of split up. So I just want to point out a couple of things. As Rabbi Goldberg mentioned, he's already been involved in the three principles for a couple of years. And Yitzi has also been familiar with them at least for what now, 6 months? All right. And Mrs. Tsin is already teaching the principles, so she's been with us for a while. So Pinchas, that leaves you as the
Novice.
as the guinea pig. So we're going to try out stuff on you.
Oh, lovely.
So I really didn't want to make anyone share anything more about themselves than they had to. And since we don't have a lot of time, I'm gonna jump into what the principles are and why they're important. Is that okay with you guys? I mean, you guys have heard this mostly before, except for Rabbi Aruch, but I think there's something very, very powerful about hearing it from the top, once again, kind of looking at it completely fresh, completely new. And I'm going to do that too. So I haven't come in with prepared remarks. I'm going to take a look and see what emerges. Oy vey. Okay, so there's a basic question. There's a basic question that we're going to start with, and that question is, where or how does a human being have the capacity to experience life? You want to take a minute?
Comes and goes.
Yeah? You've had a cold for a while? Okay. So the reason why this is an important question is because all of life is geboit, so to speak, on that question. I mean, you're in life 24/7.
Experiencing.
You're experiencing life 24/7. Do you hear what I mean by that? By experiencing life 24/7? Is that something that makes sense to you? Like, it's not something you have to do, it's just something that you're in 24/7, right? And so if somebody misunderstands how that works, or if someone has a theory about how it works that's kind of close but not completely close, so they're going to, not completely perfect, so they're going to run into moments where it kind of doesn't make sense, according to their theory, why they're feeling a certain way, how they came to feel a certain way. And that's why it's really relevant to have kind of an accurate view as to why or how you come to feel whatever it is that you're feeling at any moment. And if that's a little bit off, no matter what you're doing, you're going to run into, you're going to be making some, you're going to be working with bad intel. You're going to be working with some bad information, right? For example, if you are of, there's a whole school of psychology that believes, or the theory goes, is that your environment affects how you feel right now. So that would be the nurture school, right? There's, everyone's heard of nature versus nurture, right? So there's the nurture school, which is the kind of the sociological approach that you are determined by people around you, the environment you're in, whether you grow up during wartime or peacetime, or whether, depending on who the president was, and which chassidus you were involved in, those types of things, right? That will all determine your level of, will determine everything about you, according to the purists of those theories. And of course, there's a lot of exceptions to that rule. So they kind of said, well, they kind of concluded there's a combination of nature and nurture. So there's part of who you are. You're born a certain way, and then nurture also influences who you're going to be. Now, how would you feel if I told you that they're both wrong, that neither of them are true, that neither nature nor nurture can determine how you feel right now in this moment, or the choices that are available to you in this moment, or the feelings that you have, or the emotions that you have, that none of those things have any, that's not where it starts. That's not where the beginning is. Would that make a difference? Would that be important to know?
Yes.
Why would that be important to know?
So there's living in a false theory, false beliefs.
Okay.
It gives you a new responsibility for how you are in the moment. You can't blame it to any outside forces.
Okay, so I hear the second thing that you're saying, that that you can't blame outside forces. I'm not so sure about the first part, where it gives you more responsibility. Maybe we can talk more about that, about what you mean by that. But I really like the second part. The second part is that it's eliminating things that we thought were impacting and creating our feeling in the moment, and we're starting to see that that's not true. And that is the direction. That is the absolute direction that the principles will funnel us through. When I say principles, I mean the one thing that actually is creating our experience in the moment. And it is just one thing. So in Yiddishkeit, we have a very similar paradigm. Okay, so we're going to talk about what I mean by paradigm, and I'm going to give you an example of a paradigm. So the bedrock of Yiddishkeit is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And without getting very complicated, the Sfarim talk about the inability for us to be teifus or to comprehend any part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu at all. It's not something that we can comprehend. Any of his midas, any of his characteristics. There is one characteristic that we can have, not a complete comprehension of, but we can have a small comprehension of, and that is the echad. We can't fully comprehend God's absolute unity, but we can comprehend that if there's one, there is no other. Right? This is something that's basic in Yiddishkeit. Anyone who's from, whether they've thought about it in a while or not, is tzarachian, but this is something that we can comprehend, that there's a paradigm, there's a logic. The logic is that there is one and no other. And that has implications, right? Well, if there's only one God, then I know that none of these are gods. And I cannot attribute what's happening in the world to anything but this one. And if I ever get busy with attributing other things as being catalysts for what's going on in the world, other than God, I would be outside the logic. There's a paradigm. There's a paradigm of that it works one. A paradigm means that it works one way and no other way. That's a paradigm that we're all very familiar with in Yiddishkeit. There's also a paradigm in psychology. There's a paradigm, a singular explanation or catalyst for how we come to feel whatever it is that we feel in the moment. And whatever that is, and we can get into that either today or tomorrow or some other time. But I think the singular direction or the helpful direction of learning about it is not so much that you're going to ever come to the end of really comprehending what that one thing is, but that we know it's just that one thing and that it is nothing else. It is not your genetics. It is not your environment. It's not your children. It's not your job. It's not your past. None of those things have the ability to create your stage of life that you're in the moment. And that one little piece of information is something that will continuously teach us as we get reminded of it, as it emerges for us, as we get to see that that's true.